Welcome, everybody. This is Coffee Cocktails and Capitalism. I'm Captain Morgan of Beyond the Trend Marketing, and today I am delighted to have my neighbor, friend, fellow Main Streeter, and successful entrepreneur, Rob MacCallum.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad
you invited me down to see a great little studio.
Well, thank you. A whole 2 doors away, right? We just moved here in January, but I kind of love being on Main Street.
I do too.
How long have you been here?
We've only been here for just about a year.
Okay.
So I think 9 months now.
Okay.
And yeah, it's been a game changer for us. We very much enjoyed being on Main Street and being involved in downtown and everything that is going on here. So
yeah, no, it's kind of becoming a little bit of a scene, right? We're all working on it. So if you missed the video where we made these delicious beverages, you should go back and watch it. Our ode to the Kentucky Derby peach mint bourbon situation.
mint julep-y.
Mm-hmm. Mint julep-esque, yes. Okay, so Rob.
Yes.
Let's go back to the beginning. You're obviously an influencer in the community now. Yes, influential person in the community. Yes. No. So let's go back to kind of where it all started for you. Where were you born?
Sure. So I was actually born in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
We moved up to Massachusetts when I was in 2nd grade. And then from there, I was in Hingham, Massachusetts until, outside of college. So, grew up, regular life, played.
Regular life.
Regular life.
Please elaborate.
You
had brothers and sisters.
Yep, I have 3 younger brothers.
Okay.
No sisters. So
okay.
Now my daughter gets spoiled rotten by my mom because she's always wanted that girl. And now she has her.
Nice.
We, growing up in Hingham, it was just athletics, and we were, one of the reasons why I can handle a busy schedule now is because we were always really busy scheduled as kids, and
your parents kept you guys kind of running.
Mm-hmm. Basketball, baseball, soccer, tournaments, all that good stuff. So it's a great life. I was raised well. So
awesome. Good. That's nice to hear. And then what brought you to Florida?
So my great-grandparents moved to Vero Beach in the early 60s. And so my great-grandfather actually came and was one of the first audio-visual teachers of St. Edward's School.
How interesting.
So, them opened that school, and that was one of the reasons that they ended up here. And then my grandmother and grandfather moved down here in 92, and then my mom followed in the mid-2000s. And so when I met my wife, I brought her down to meet the family, and it was in December. Mm-hmm. And if anyone knows what December's like in Massachusetts, we're in a converted 1-car garage down by the beach. And so I brought her down here, and she was able to run, she was able to enjoy the outdoors, and it was the middle of December, and we get back up there, and it's a blizzard, and we actually had water come up. There's in our house there was a stop sign right at the road. Water came up to that stop sign, didn't enter our
in the middle of winter.
Middle of winter.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
The ocean's up, it was a little wild. And so she looked at me and she's like, "I'm moving to Florida." And so
decision made.
I'm like, well, my mom's down here, my grandparents are down here. We'll figure out I had a business up there, and I still do. I was like, I'll figure it out and we'll make it work, and we did. And we moved down probably about 6 months later.
Okay.
And we had our first son at that point. And then she was pregnant with our daughter, and so it was we had a whole big mess.
Kind of a whirlwind, yeah.
Her family's still all up there too.
So okay.
It was a difficult decision for her, but she is famous for that Benjamin T square. Mm-hmm. Where you put the pros and the cons, and
that's how she makes all of her decisions.
It was to stay really, except for family and the job,
right?
And so the quality of life definitely attracted us down here, and made it a very easy decision after a little bit of a debate.
Yeah.
Wasn't much of a
debate. Not too many reasons to stay in the north. Yeah, for sure.
I had always been I'd love to wind up in Florida at some point. Because I remember standing at the bus stop when I was in probably 4th, 5th grade, and when it was brutally cold, I would close my eyes and I'd picture being at my grandmother's house,
Oh my
the
gosh.
beach,
Yeah.
Florida, and it would warm me up just enough until the bus came, and I would scoot on the bus and then would go to school.
That's
And,
so interesting. You were visualizing, you were manifesting, dreaming, yes, imagining.
So yeah, it was so it was a pretty easy decision once, she said, it's a happy wife, happy life.
As they say, yes indeed.
So that's what it is. And it's been awesome, living here, getting integrated with Vero Beach and Indian River County, and doing everything that, they have to offer here, and just helping try to make it a better community and, grow where we want to grow. So
Yeah. Well, you do a few things in the community, but I do feel like we skipped a few steps. So what was kind of your first job, maybe in like high school or out of college or?
So yeah, first real actual job was actually with Teco.
Okay.
That was my first sales role. So
we have that in common.
we do.
Yes, that's awesome. You may have noticed we used a Cutco knife in our.
I was going to ask you where that came from.
Yes.
So,
no.
okay, usually people that sold Cutco still have their Cutco stock.
I mean, it is a great product. There's no reason not to keep it and use it. You worked hard and earned every single blade, right?
Well, the funny thing is, I earned, I think like a homemaker set or something like that. And when I lived in Utah. I'll get to that job in a couple minutes.
Okay.
I lived in Utah, and I actually ended up leaving them at one of the apartments that I had a roommate with.
Oh my
I
gosh.
tried to get them back, and so I was devastated.
They held them hostage, I'm sure. They're worth a lot of money.
Yeah, and they're great now. So then I went to Nicholas College and I studied sport management. That was my, I went to, it was a business school, so I got a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, concentration in sport management, which was throwing me out to Utah for my internship. I worked for a company called Real Salt Lake of Major League Soccer. I was the game day operations manager and the on-field presentations as far as like the jerseys and, the numbers and the names on the back. I was the merchandise manager as well. So,
Okay.
Helped them move from Rice Eccles Stadium, which is where the Utah Utes play. And we built our own stadium, and so I was part of that move and transition into Sandy, Utah.
You guys built your own soccer stadium for that organization?
Did, yeah.
That's amazing.
I got to see that whole process from start to finish, where we were, and then moving into the new stadium and all the ins and outs of an organization when you have a massive move like that. So it was really kind of a cool experience.
Was that kind of self-funded within, and, take breaks, sip. We're in no rush here. But was that kind of self-funded by the organization? Did they have kind of one sponsor, like, there's the Staples Center and, the Verizon Center and stuff like that?
They did, yeah. So they had a naming rights sponsor. They had a sponsorship department, but the project itself, I think it was funded by Darren Checketts at the time, who was part owner of the Utah Jazz. And he also owned a sport management group. So I think that's where most of the funding came.
And he just really loved soccer?
I can't say that. I don't.
Okay.
I never met him, so I never really met him, but
just not that many places invest that much money in soccer in America, so it's just really interesting to me.
When they were seeing, I think, the trend of where the MLS was going, soccer is the number one sport for youth.
Right. No, it is.
So when you see that trend and you see that's continuously getting better, and the league had been around for, I think, about 10 or 12 years at that time, and they were consistently making money, and they were consistently growing their fan base. And so then I think also all the expansion teams were required to have plans for their own soccer specifics.
So interesting.
Moving forward. So that was all part of the deal of becoming part of Major League Soccer.
Was this pre-Beckham in America or post?
No. So I was there during. So
that makes a little more sense. Yes.
I think my second year there was the Beckham year.
Yeah.
Funny thing about
that was a really big deal. I mean, I grew up playing soccer. I was not great at it, but I love playing. And then my husband's from England, so of course we were watching all of that very interestedly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, both Colleen and I played through college. So.
Wow. Okay.
She played at Division I, or Division II school.
Wow.
That was 3 Final Four rings. So
oh my gosh, she's legit.
Yeah, we'll be watching
the Pee Wee soccer match.
We'd be watching like a Women's World Cup match.
Oh, yeah.
That person, like the captain of Brazil.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. You're right. Right. Another lifetime.
Had some great experiences
Good
with
for her. Yeah.
she has friends all over the world too. That's great. So, but yeah, so we're both big into soccer. And so that was like kind of a cool experience. I forget where we're going with that, but.
You did all that in Utah, and then somehow you made your way back someplace else.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Oh, we're talking about Beckham, the Beckham experience. So the funny part about the Beckham experience was, so we're in Salt Lake City. Beckham was playing for LA, and whenever LA would come to town, the ticket guys would be marketing it as the Beckham game.
Oh.
And so this was the first like aha moment of like organizations and not really fully like they're trying to sell tickets and they're not really thinking of the overall experience because, then our president pulled the ticketing guy and said, guys, what are you doing? It's like, what if Beckham doesn't play?
Right. That's true. You guys don't have any control over that. Yeah.
He doesn't play on turf fields and whatnot. There's just like some things that they don't do.
Okay.
And so, there was a kind of a marketing shift that you had to do. It's not the Beckham game. He doesn't play for us.
Right.
You need to sell tickets the entire season. So,
right. And build loyalty to your team and brand and league and everything. Yeah.
That was an interesting, when you have a big name like that, like Messi now, you can't call it the Messi game. You have to call it, Miami FC versus Real Salt Lake.
Right.
So, it was just kind of a cool, that was a first aha moment in marketing for me that really kind of, got me thinking differently about different things. So,
yeah.
But that was the interesting experience about Beckham. And like literally there was one, and the reason why I left the sports industry actually was because, of that. I can be a fan and I'm a big fan of sports. I like, I love the Red Sox. I love, watching. I was at the Celtics game the other night. So I really enjoy being a fan of the sport. And when you're working in the sport, you can't be.
Correct.
And everything is tight-lipped. Everything is, really close to home until you're allowed to PR announce it. So, Beckham was right here to me. Like, we were in that and I couldn't really do much. My job was to take a picture of him in one of our.
So you could not be a fan in the moment. Yeah.
If you are, you get fired on the spot. So those are things that like, you kind of have to sacrifice when you're in it. So it's cool to be around it. But at the same point, like, you kind of really are just like that person in the background that has to kind of hide. So, which if you know me, I'm not good at doing that.
It's not really a shrinking violet, I would say. No. Yeah.
So that was a cool experience. And then after 3 years being out there, I realized that, I wasn't going to be able to where I wanted to get to is actually the general manager of the team. So I actually sat him down. His name was Garth Lagerway. I sat him down one day. I said, how'd I get your job? And he goes, you don't. You think
it's my job, pal.
They really want. He's like, it had nothing to do with that. He's like, they want someone who's played. He was a goalie for a while. And
okay.
So they want someone that plays and understands, the ins and outs of what it takes.
The player experience. Yeah.
And so, we went through all these things. And so I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then I actually watched him and how he operated for the next 3 or 4 months. And the guy does not sleep. He did not go home. He didn't have a personal life because the international transfer market and all this stuff opens up. And so now you're looking at, okay, well, now I have to sacrifice my personal life. And I've always been a family guy. I've always wanted a family. I've always wanted that, work-life balance. That can sacrifice. Look at the president of our, of the company as well. Same thing. He operated his whole family, moved from New York to Utah. So there's all sorts of challenges there if you want. And so I just looked at that and I was like, that's not the lifestyle I want.
Yeah.
So then I revamped everything. And I started applying for jobs back in Massachusetts, and it landed with me at Liberty Mutual Insurance. And that's where I got my insurance background. Was there for a couple of years, and then decided that I didn't like someone, 7 layers up, making decisions about my future that I really had no control over. So I liked the insurance aspect of what it gave and what it provided and the residual income part. And so the lifestyle it gave me, wasn't really excited about insurance, but
right. I think that's for most people, right? It's a means to an end kind of thing. Yeah.
So then I started looking, okay, well, how can I make this a career that I really like? So I was like, well, you can always become your own independent agent. So I looked at that. I took a job with a local firm to learn the agency market to see if something I would want to do. And the rest is kind of history on that. Then I worked there for a couple of years, and then I decided to go out on my own and start with the insurance. And that's been about 12 years now.
I didn't know that you did insurance at all.
An insurance company in Massachusetts still to this day.
Okay.
Got a staff and a partner out there that is killing it.
Awesome.
Great job. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So then how I got into real estate, and that will wrap up my kind of career.
I mean, you can take your time.
So Colleen and I both had our real estate license in Massachusetts. And so she was starting to get, acclimated up there with like learning the industry, and she really liked it. It's something that she could get on board with. And so when we were moving down to Florida, we were looking at starting our own insurance agency and a branch of real estate. And we were looking at our own options, whether we're going to do an independent brand, whether we're going to do one of these corporate brands, or whether they're going to come and join a team or something like that. We're just looking at all the
right, examining everything.
So a recruiter had actually emailed my mom, who was working for a different company in town at the time, and she sent it to us and said, "Hey, you should check out this company. It's called EXIT Realty." And I said, "All right." So we came down here for vacation once. We met up with that recruiter, and Colleen wasn't all against big corporate entities, but when we met with them, the core values of the corporate entity was very much in line with how we are. Honest, ethical, take care of people, the humanistic aspect, and developing human potential. Those were the things that they really harped on in our thing. So we did our research, and we found that the whole company, from the CEO all the way down, is exactly like that. They're not owned by corporate. They're actually owned by an independent person and entity, and it just flows down. So there's no stockholders. You're answering to real estate people. And so I really like that aspect for me. She really liked that kind of feel as well. And then the more people we met, we just, there was no question that that's the root.
Everything just kind of was falling into place.
They've proven it over and over again since day one. We're now in our 7th year with EXIT. And, the best thing that I like to say is we're the best balance of a corporate structure where we have all the training, technology, and tools behind us, but every decision's made locally. So it stops with me. They don't come down and tell me I have to do certain things, or we have to do this or that or the other thing. As long as we're staying within our license laws, they leave us alone, and we can do stuff that's localized.
Interesting.
So that's how I'm able to get into the community and kind of go with other ways that I want to go. So that's why we started with EXIT. That's why we stay with EXIT, and that's why we're going to continue to grow the brand, and all of our realtors are on board and loving it as well. So we're excited with the opportunity. So
one of the reasons that I started doing this was I was chairperson at the Young Professionals Network for a couple of years. So I feel like you talk to a lot of people that are in their 20s and are trying to figure out their careers. And it always kind of feels like whatever decision I make now, like I'm going to be stuck with, or, I've got to figure this all out in like the next 2 years, or like it's all over. Right. So why start your own brokerage instead of just becoming like a super successful agent under somebody else's brokerage? Because it's not a small thing, right? It takes a little doing to do. And do you want to maybe share a little bit about what goes into like having a separate brokerage versus like, just being an independent office underneath like a Keller Williams or something?
Yeah. So, there's all different structures. So, as I said, what I like is the freedom of I own my own brokerage, and I have all the decision power that what goes on my brokerage. There's very few things I don't have the power over. So it's basically the when you're looking at this industry, there's so much technology that you need to put into a brokerage. If I was to price out everything that we get from being part of EXIT, it would be astronomical, and we would have to basically be like $1 billion company. So it's like when you look at that, and I'm looking at, okay, if I leave up, I might be able to make a little bit more because there's franchise fees or whatever, but at the end of the day, like I'd have to pay out more, and it's the time and the energy to go research the products, make sure they're a good company, make sure that whoever's calling, you get 100 calls a week about this newest, latest, greatest lead generation or CRM or coach or whatever.
Like software and platforms and
You need
vendors.
If you don't have this, you're doing things the old way. It's like, come on. So, like having to feel that with a franchise, it's really like that's all done. It's a brokerage in a box, and if you follow what the box is giving you in the tools, yeah, you can add things wherever you want, you can change things, but it's essentially all the basics are there, and even then some. So that's why we chose to do the brokerage model. The team thing, I think differently. I'm not an in the box kind of thinker, so when I'm looking at having bosses, I never really was, I was always good at, being a team player and listening to my boss and, doing what we needed to do. But it was always in the back of my mind. It was like, well, I don't want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. And, when you're kind of in like a Liberty Mutual, Tommy, great company, I'm not bashing them by any means, but they're an in the box company. And I would hit my numbers all the time. But if the office didn't hit their numbers, I still had to go make cold calls. Or I still had to produce more to make up for people that weren't hitting their numbers.
Yeah.
Because at that point it becomes a team thing and not a, hey, individual, you did great, you can go home. And, Johnny Sally over here, has to make cold calls until they hit the numbers. So, I never really liked that aspect of it. And then there's some lines that I didn't believe in at the company that I didn't think was greatest for the clients, and these to hit those numbers. And so, when I look at that, I'm like, all right, well, they're telling me things that I don't want to do. And not because I don't want to do because I'm lazy. I don't want to do it because I don't believe in it. And so I then can't adequately sell it to you as my client. So that's where I kind of started looking at those things. And so when I look at that, I'm like, I started like interviewing people and talking to people. And I'm like, not too many people think the way I think. And not many people, have that drive to think outside the box and pivot like you were talking about, and like not have that finite mentality about things of like, this is the only way I can do it. If I don't do it this way, I'm going to completely fail, and then my life goes down the tubes.
Right.
I have no problems with failure. And I have absolutely zero problems with failing at something and then picking myself up and going in a different direction and doing it better next time, or evaluating and saying, okay, that was a dumb idea. I'm not going to restart it. I'm just going to scrap it and we're going to move on with something else. And I think that's when I look at that, like if you have a boss, you can't do that. If you have someone telling you like, hey, we need to be here, so you have to do, that's kind of what then drove me to my own brokerage in my own way, because, I just think differently. And I think I'm not afraid to take risks, and I can't take risks with other people's money. I can't take risks with other people's livelihoods. And so, I live or die by my own decisions. And that's kind of where I was able to then be like, I need to be in business on my own. It's kind of where we got there.
That's really good self-awareness though, because a lot of people, I think, can be so caught up in just kind of getting through the day that they're not taking that step back to kind of zoom out and look at their lives with that 3,000-foot view and say, you know what, I'm this type of person. For me to thrive, I should probably go this way, So,
well, you got to know your own strengths and weaknesses. So my strength is that I had that 30,000-foot view. I can see a project. I can see where I want it to go. My, you're not supposed to say weakness anymore.
Is that a thing? I don't know. It's been a long time, thank God, since I've been interviewed. So
my opportunities for improvement, or whatever you want to call it, is the steps to get to that goal, that ultimate goal, right? So when we're looking at the process, that's where I struggle a bit to figure out that process. I know the goal I want to get. I know how to get there. It's just how I get there that I'm not always sure, because I'm always good at pivoting and saying, okay, well, today we're going to do this. I know it's going to help me get there, but I don't know how quick. Is there another way? And so you just kind of, for me, that's where a lot of time is spent in the middle part of getting to a goal and, starting that goal. So that's why I put people in place that can be those cuts and keep me on track.
Right. Well, hey, none of us can do it alone, right? It takes a village for sure. So when you're not working on the real estate business, you have run for public office.
I did.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
Tell the people what you ran for and what made you decide to expose yourself to the harsh and unforgiving world of local politics, I would say. But
so we got involved in the school board, and I tell the story all the time. It's probably 2 or 3 years ago, I went to a Debbie Mayfield event at someone's house. We were just invited to it, and we afterwards she was talking about all the things that were going on, and afterwards Colleen and I walked up to her and said, hey, we want to get involved, like we really think that we can help, just how we do things and the ability to make connections and network with people. And she goes, well, have you looked at your local school board? And at the time I didn't even know school board existed, to be honest with you. I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So I started looking into it, and I realized that and not just this county, but the countrywide, like the problem we have with schools is we've taken our foot off the gas of really looking at what we're putting in our kids' heads, what we're putting out as education, and expecting the school system. I'm not even blaming the school system on this. We've expected the school system to raise our kids over the last 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. And so when you do that, you're taking away the parental ability to really raise the children with the moral fibers of that family. Mm-hmm. So when I really started looking at that, that was my fundamental reason of getting in, to kind of really see what was going on. I don't think and I don't blame the school system. I don't think it's nefarious. It's just something that we've now become accustomed to.
Correct. And
so we need to change that mentality, because really it starts at home. Because if a teacher is, they're there for 7-8 months of the kid's life, and then they go on to another teacher, mm-hmm. but the parents are there all the time.
You're right.
And so if one teacher says X, Y, Z, A, B, C on a formative year, and then the next teacher says, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, mm-hmm. well, that kid has no continuity of development. So it really has to come from the house. It has to start in the home. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that's one of the things that really drew me to it. Then you look at like the literacy rate, and you looked at, I think we were at 60% literacy rate, or some really low numbers.
Yeah, kind of insane. First of all, we have a small community. Second of all, we have a well-resourced community. And it just, when you look at some of the stats about our education system, and even things like, I know just from Impact 100, we talk about like, it's food insecurity.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes, like food insecurity. And some of these other issues that you think like, sure, in a big city, surely not here. So anyway, but yeah, so
we're traveling here too.
Continue. Low literacy rate. Yes.
Yeah, low literacy rate. You look at, just a lot of, things that they're trying that weren't working, but then there's a lot of pushback. So it just gets delayed. And then, it's just, there's a lot of red tape that goes into that. And, when you really look at who's made up the school boards and whatnot, and I'm not even just talking locally, as I said, this is more nationally, but when you're looking at it, it's really retired teachers, retired, principals, people that have been in the education system.
They're only from the administrative side.
Right.
Yeah.
They have a one lane mind as to how it needs to go and how it needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And so for me, jumping in with, as I said, an open mind, with someone who thinks outside the box, with someone who is a solution-based, not a problem-based business owner, I thought I could really make a difference and work with the superintendent and the school system to say, okay, here's the problem, let's figure out these solutions, and then, develop, those solutions with
some different protocols and things. Yeah.
Because I think, we've had yes people for a long time and this is our county. We've had a lot of yes people who just, hey, you're the superintendent, you take care of it, and we're going to sit up here and just, make sure that, we feel like we're going in the right direction. And, the right direction to some of them was staying status quo. And not making big changes, and not really looking at different things, and not really making common sense decisions that I think really would affect our school system long term. So, and not for nothing, but I think they're doing a good job now. I think Dr. Moore has really pushed that envelope and has really, accelerated our school system. And
it seems like it,
because we've got all these private schools popping up. And school system is based off of enrollment. So if you're not enrolled in the public school system, they're not getting that money per child now. Because
Yeah.
you take it out and you put it towards homeschool, you put it towards private school.
I heard when that law changed, there was a pretty decent drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a big drop in like 5th grade. So I think a lot of people worry that going into middle school years, that's the big problem years. So a lot of them withdraw the kids from school and they'll homeschool them, or they'll put them into private school, or now there's...
Well, that's when you're starting to prep for college, you know?
Yeah, so those decisions become big. So
Mm-hmm.
they're doing, they're doing some good things to try to mitigate that, and they're doing like K to 8 models now. And so some of these schools are expanding to middle school, staying with their elementary school. That will present its own set of problems, but I like the fact that they're trying new things and they're thinking outside the box, and the old way is not just the only way.
Right,
So
right.
I do like the ingenuity, and I do like the progress that they're doing. But I think I could have definitely helped on that board. Didn't go my way. All good, and I have no nothing negative to say about my opponent. I think she'll do a great job. Her heart is absolutely gold, and she loves this community, and she's been, a staple of this community for 50 years. So, she's going to continue to love it, and she's going to continue to push hard to do what she wants to have done on the school board. So, nothing negative. It was all good. It was a great experience. But yeah, when you get into the political world, it opens you up to, a lot of people just hate you because you're running.
Yes.
It's like
100%. Nope. Totally.
And so,
it's very brave in modern America, and maybe everywhere in the world in this day and age, to enter into politics, to throw your hat into the arena. Yeah. It is very gladiatorial in a lot of ways.
It is. And it's, and I now firsthand understand being in that, in that arena, in the most contested race in our county. I understand why people are reluctant to do it, but that is why they should be doing it. Because the reason they're reluctant to do it is because of the personal attacks, because of the negative backlash, because of anything that could happen. But the only way we're going to change it is by people being brave enough to run for it, getting in there and changing it.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we can do it. So, unfortunately, I get why people wouldn't do it, but there's a lot of talented people that should be running for these positions, and unfortunately just don't want to open themselves up to the scrutiny and the backlash. And it's unfortunate that that's what's happened, because I feel it's a great thing for someone to do, is offer their talents to a community. There's no reason you should beat anyone down for putting a name in a hat,
right,
and saying, hey, listen,
right,
good job. This is why, I think you should be doing it. Like, should be more encouraging and less negative.
Well, and at the local level, there probably could be a little bit more local election rules that protect people's, privacy, or, protect you from negative campaigning a little bit more and things like that. But, politics is such a deep-seated industry.
Well, and then you build up the whole, freedom of speech stuff that they'll pull if you try to, cater to what they're going to say. I mean, the things that you really want to, as a politician, like as someone that's running for politics, is it truth, and can you prove it? And if you can, then, you can run with it. But
but you just ultimately have to care what people don't. You can't care what people think.
Yeah, I always, I have this saying, and I'm going to bleep it, but, my agents say, how can you remain so calm through all these situations? I'm like, at the end of the day, I just say F it. It's just like, this is going to be a momentary problem. It's going to be something that is not a long-term issue. We'll get through it, and as long as we're doing things for the right reasons and doing it the right way, there's nothing that I'm going to regret moving forward.
Yeah.
And so if I then can go out of my house, or if I can leave the office, or I can leave, the election, being like, hey, I tried my best, I did everything I could, and I kept my integrity, and I made sure that I have nothing to regret by, beating some down or whatever. If I have nothing to regret, then I can go on and forget about it and move on. If it's me personally that has something that I know I did that I morally can't stand, that's when I'll have a problem. I'll have to hang on to it. So that's why I try to stay above board on everything.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have to carry that baggage.
Right. Well, that's just great advice in general, is that if you're looking at a situation, you want to be able to walk away from that situation with no regrets, if you can, right? So just like you do everything on your side of the street to try and make it be whatever it needs to be. And then anything beyond that is just out of your control, and that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to, it's not going to roll your way. It's not going to go the way you want it to go. Sometimes it's going to get nasty.
And, as long as you can keep yourself out of, what's the, the whole saying of like, keep it above the belt, whatever. If they're going to go low,
you go high. Yeah.
So, and I know who said that, and I know, Anyway.
Yeah.
So,
that's not a new saying. That's been around for a long time. Yeah.
But yeah, so, it's kind of just like, I'm going to
stick to my moral fibers. I'm going to stick to, what keeps me going and where I really want to be and what I can essentially, be proud of and teach my children when they
right
have that same moral line to stay up above. So, that's kind of what I always have at the back of my mind.
Yeah. Well, family in general is a really good guiding light always, I think. And in terms of just kind of trying to let stuff roll off of you, I'm sure your sales training has helped quite a bit with that, because it is all a numbers game at the end of the day.
Yeah. And, we read books all the time. I actually started a business book club. So if anyone's interested in doing it.
That's cool.
We're now reading Stop Squatting with Your Spurs On.
That's awesome.
By Angel Tucker. You can find it on Amazon.
She's actually an exit mindset trainer. She does her own thing too. She has her own company, but
essentially have you heard of disc profiling?
What is it?
So DISC.
Oh, yes.
So disc. So we all have a little bit of everything in us. But you have certain traits, and it's how to communicate with each other. So in the business world, that's immensely important.
Yes.
If I'm a D and I'm talking to a sensitive S and I'm talking like a D, you're going to make that S cry every single time. So it's, and then you lose a sale, or you lose the connection, or you lose the potential, whatever. So it's really important to do it. So that's this month's book club. So if anyone's interested, we've opened it up to anyone that wants to do it. So
that's cool.
It started in our BNI group, and, now we're opening it up to.
Is it a book a month?
It's a book a month. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And where do you guys meet?
We meet at Rio Coco in the airport. And this month is on the 30th at 8:30 a.m.
So everybody, you have a whole month to get the book read.
You do. And I just ordered 42 of them. So,
come by the office and just get one.
Hopefully my agents aren't watching. It's probably going to be your gift for this year, the Christmas gift. So
you'd still act surprised, guys.
Well, yeah, I usually get my agents every year. They get a book for Christmas.
Nice.
So yeah,
books are great gifts.
How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of our first ones.
It's a classic.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, yeah, we read them all, and it's important lessons just in life. It doesn't even matter if it's sales or business or whatever.
Yeah.
But it teaches you how to be a better human being, how to be a better father, how to be a better wife, and all that good stuff.
So in addition to the real estate, in addition to bettering our community by making everybody, read about not sitting on their spurs, which I'm going to laugh about for a long time.
Okay, when they come in, I'll give you a copy.
Bring a copy down here. We'll put it up here on the bar. You also do quite a bit with Rotary, I understand. Yeah. That's the word on the street.
Yeah, I'm actually the incoming president this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, Ray Hooker is the outgoing of our group, and
this is for the Sunrise Rotary.
Rotary Sunrise.
Yes.
And we do we do a lot of things in town.
I don't know how familiar you are with it, but the Christmas parade's run by our group. Half Brewing Wing Festival is run by our group. With Spirits Festival that just happened. A lot of money that we donate to different organizations. We've got grants. So, if anyone's in need, Rotary is a great option. There's actually 6 different clubs in this town alone. So we're the morning club. So we meet at 7 a.m. on Wednesdays. There's a lunch club that meets, I think, on Thursdays. There's a couple dinner clubs, and then there's a more of a check writing club. So they meet off and on. I actually meet at Sean Ryan's club. And they just get together and they look for different opportunities to donate and where their money's going to be most impactful. So the greatest thing about Rotary though is when you donate to Rotary, I think it's like 95% 95 or 96 cents of every dollar goes to the actual cause.
Wow.
So if you look on, I can't remember the charity website that shows you the best charities.
Like GuideStar?
Yeah, I think it's guys.
Mm-hmm.
We're always up at the top as far as the most amount of money that goes to the actual cause.
Wow.
So if you're looking for places to put your money to go to different good causes throughout the entire world, Rotary is always a good option.
Nice.
It's like for members.
Shameless plug. Yeah.
Plug.
Do you guys have a website?
We do. It's sunriserotary.org.
Do you have any exciting kind of mandates or projects as incoming president that you're trying to?
So one thing that I'm passionate about lately, I've got into the Florida Faith Alliance, is doing a lot with human trafficking. And so that's a cause that I'm bringing up to our club, and I'm having them try to get involved in, because it's definitely a prevalent issue that we've now been made aware of. Over the last several years, they've really been a push to make aware, and it's not what you think about just human trafficking, but there's a lot of different options. So that's my big push for a new project that we're going to be getting involved with next year, hopefully. And then, as I said, we just do, all the big projects we do, like the Christmas parade and whatnot, all that money that we raise from those things go to all these different organizations. We're also part of the fridge programs. So like the Bellsmere fridge, have something in, we have a couple of different fridges.
Explain to people what that is, though.
So essentially it's like a free grocery store. So people in need can just go and no questions asked. You can pick up your groceries and whatever's there. We try to keep it as stocked as possible.
Who goes out and physically stocks all those?
Rotarians.
Wow.
Yep. So we do there's a lot of manpower that goes into being a Rotarian. There's a lot. So, you can donate your time, you can donate your treasure, whatever works as being a Rotarian. It's all about giving and service above self. So, I'm very proud. I've been a Rotarian for 12 years now. So I was in my club in Massachusetts, and then I transferred down here and I got involved with Sunrise. And so I've been, about six years now with Sunrise. So,
okay.
If you have any questions about Rotary, come visit a meeting on any of us and any one of the 6 clubs in town and see what it's all about.
It is a popular thing to be a part of here in this community.
Yeah. Well, you just get to learn so much too. It's, we have an international club that actually travels and goes to different countries and does water projects or beautification projects. They've built schools in El Salvador. They just finished one last year that built a school for the deaf, because, third world countries don't view disabilities like we do.
Correct.
So, they actually put the funds through, and for the first couple of years, so the new part of the program was actually having full day school for the deaf community. And they were able to, before it was just, I think 3 hours a day, because that's all they could get funding for. And they were just able to increase that to full day this past year. So there's a lot of things that you can get really passionate about and really get involved at a good base level.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible. We also call it Rotary math. So basically, if you donate $1, we have a grant system that, you put it goes up to district, and then in 3 years it comes back as like $3.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So we have different programs like that your money actually expands and goes really far. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone's interested in Rotary, we'd love to. I'll talk about it all day. Invite them to a meeting and get them going.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Are you available next Wednesday morning?
No, you are not the first person to ask me. Yes.
Avery, then you've definitely been asked before.
Well, Deb actually, don't blame her for this, but she has not actually personally asked me. But no black marks for Deb. She and I don't spend a ton of time together, but Richard and Ray are on my board for Main Street, so I get.
Well, Richard's our membership chair.
Yes, I get the hard recruitment pitch on a semi-regular basis.
Regular basis.
Right. Yes. No, I do not want to be at a meeting at 7 a.m. on any morning of the week. And then also, well, we keep media hours here. Yeah. Like a lot of times we're, doing stuff until like 10:30 here. So, but also, Main Street has to be my focus this year until my term is over. So you understand how that goes. Right. I mean, you can, and then you just deeply regret it. Yeah. So real estate is one of the largest industries, maybe third on the list in Indian River County. Do you know?
We're second or third as far as
There's like government, healthcare, and real estate are like the
Piper's up there too. As far are you talking about like employment?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I guess I was thinking like economic impact. I don't think Piper's is high. Yeah.
Real estate was definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's massive here. I mean we sell a lot of real estate. We have a lot of people that are in real estate in this area. We have a lot of investors and a lot of money that's parked here in Houston. So I have that full gamut of, first time home buyers are just getting started to billionaires that are just using their money to
they're moving it around. Yeah.
So so we have that whole gamut, and it's a really unique market that way. You really have to understand the nuances of it to be a successful realtor in this county. And it changes all the time. So we're a little bit also insulated from the rest of the country. So when you see like all these trends of like, oh, real estate's card. Well, even in, I guess, 2000, I wasn't here in 2008 and 2009, but when that whole thing was happening, we were still above most of the country.
The market average, yeah.
Because what people don't realize here is there's always been a lot of equity in people that have owned their homes outright in our county. So, when a foreclosure happens, the only way foreclosure can happen is if you're defaulting on your loan and there's no way to short sell it or whatnot. So you get your way out of that. So when you have equity, a bank, the fallacy is a bank wants to hold onto your home and own it and flip it. That's not true. They would rather short sell it and get it off their books.
Right.
And, have it.
They just want their cash in the bank.
Yeah, and that's because when they foreclose, there's a ton of fees that go on with foreclosures. Not to mention, they're probably not going to get a decent offer, and they're probably not going to get the money that the house is actually worth.
Right.
So they're going to lose a lot of money. So they don't want to hold on to your house. So you're in a financial problem. You should contact someone about a short sale or something along those lines to help you get out. Because when you short sell a house, you get all that money that is in equity that you can go with. So even if you're a little bit behind on your bills, even in foreclosure, I think there's stipulations where a bank can't make money. They can only get paid back what they're put into it or they're owed. So I think there's still some stuff there. But
what's the difference between short selling a house and just selling a house?
So short selling it's pretty much like pre-foreclosure. So it's kind of started the process where you're behind on your mortgage and a bank will allow you to sell it for X amount. The bank still has to, so maybe there's not enough equity in there or something along those lines. So a bank is willing to lose X amount of money. You have to go through a different process with the bank to approve it, but the bank hasn't taken ownership of that house. So right now, like the best thing is like there's a lot of equity in a lot of homes. So, if you are on ability, like where foreclosure proceeds,
because our home values have gone up significantly.
Yeah. Exactly. So, so the bank would rather you short sell it and walk away with money and be in a better position than, having to do that. So, right now the banks don't really most cases, the banks don't even have to get involved and approve anything because the equity is there that the bank's not going to lose any money. They're going to be paid whole. You're going to get your whatever equity out of it and you're going to be able to move on and, everyone's good. But when like 2008, a short sale was more of like, all right, well, you've got negative equity in the house, which means, you owe more than it's worth at this point. And so now the bank has to be willing to lose X amount of money on that and they have to approve that. So that's kind of,
I understand.
They don't own it. You still own it. You still have most of the power to sell it to, you have to sell it to for price and negotiate and whatnot. So that's the differences there.
Interesting. Okay. But you think that even though kind of, the market, they say it's settling around the country, that it's not drastically settling in Florida?
No, I mean, it's people are still wanting to move here. It's still a destination that people are very excited about moving to. It's definitely settled out. Like you're not going to be able to demand as a seller right now. We're definitely more in a buyer's market. You're not going to be able to demand prices as a seller. The buyer has a little bit more of
ability to negotiate. And, the sellers have started to realize that. I think the ones that were like, well, I have a lot of equity, I'm just going to ride it out. And, whenever the market changes, then I'll sell and I'll get the price I want. I think they're starting to realize that that's not going to happen for the foreseeable future.
Right.
So things are becoming more negotiable. And people are starting to have to sell or, have more of an urgent need to sell because maybe their plan a year ago was, I want to move back to, Pennsylvania,
Right.
kids or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and or a job's moving me, and they've had some time to wait, but now they're kind of getting antsy and they don't want to spend another Christmas without, their grandkids. So, I think that, we're starting to see those shifts in the market and the mentality of this is kind of what it is. And the prices that you were expecting to get 2, 3, 4 years ago are no longer the reality. And it's not getting back to that anytime soon. So you're starting to see some things move. So what we're always telling our clients is if you're pricing it right, and it's not a huge project, then, it's going to go fairly
quickly. Yeah.
4 months, 5 months out. So.
Oh, that's that long, really. That's interesting. So is it still kind of dictated by the snowbird season down here? I was just perusing Zillow the other day just for funsies, and I was like, oh, you probably hate that, don't you? Sorry. I think it's like a girly pastime. It's like Amazon shopping. Sometimes you're like, your husband's watching a show you're not interested in. You're like, let me just see what my neighbor's house is worth. Right. But anyway, it seemed like there was a lot of property for sale, like a kind of a surprising amount, I feel like, because maybe like 6 months ago, I felt like the inventory was fairly low. So is that changing?
A lot of inventory.
Okay.
And as I said, things are staying longer. So, if you're not pricing right, and think like, I can't remember Vista Gardens or Vista Royales, something like 62 properties for sale.
Oh my God.
Outbacks alone, like condo. So I mean, you have to set the proper expectations as a realtor of, area specific. So I mean, if there's 10 houses in a neighborhood that are for sale, and not too many of them are moving, then you got to have a pricing strategy. If you are the only house in a neighborhood that is for sale and no one else has sold in the last 10 months, you got to have a different pricing strategy. Why is no one wanting to move out of the neighborhood? Tell the story. So, I mean, it's just realtors are having to work.
Yeah.
Whereas,
can't just slap the sign up these days. Yeah.
Like you could breathe and sell a house. It was, no issues. Now you're seeing the experienced agents, it matters. And the ones that have the proper training and have the proper mentality about the industry are very much succeeding. And the ones that don't and maybe never took the time to learn the industry and what the trends are and really what it takes to be, what it takes to be a top realtor, are really struggling to figure that out at this point, because now you're working from behind,
right,
in a down market, in a more hard market to sell in. And, if you don't have that, if you're not quick to be able to get up to speed and know, you get very negative very quick. But that's what we train our agents on, is the mindset. And, I can't speak more highly about our agents and how they've waded through the market. Our office is literally full of excitement. I mean, we've got little friendly competitions going on. A couple agents right now that we have a cap out structure, and we've got about 4 of them that are about to cap out, and they're all kind of competing to see
who hits it first. Yeah,
it's just fun to see the friendly competition. But that's what our office is doing, and there's a lot of offices that are not having that much fun for now. Well, I've heard. So
yeah.
It's a tough time in our industry. So we're doing things like, we're doing a happy hour and learn over at 21st Amendment with
Joe cool.
Blair. And we're going to open it up to all the realtors in town that want to come. Jordan Lulich is going to train on, I think he's doing something with contracts, one of the contracts, and some concepts to pay attention to. And then so that's the first hour, and then the second hour is going to be a sponsored happy hour of everyone gets a drink and a couple appetizers.
Nice.
So it's just a good time to unwind and just as an industry get together and
right
and have a little good time about it. So
that's
the Friday the 16th.
Okay. And any realtors are welcome, or yes?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's something we're trying to do is put on stuff like that to, I mean, part, we like to think outside the box, and I want to professionalize our industry as much as possible. So, things like this that I can really open up and provide trainings for and whatnot. We do a lot of trainings in our office, but if we can do some here and there, actually the squatting with your
With the Spurs. Yes.
She's coming to Vero for vacation. She just texted.
Interesting.
And so we're looking at potentially bringing her in to do something like an event for
absolutely.
teachers. We're actually looking at doing like a professional development day for teachers. So I'll keep you posted on what we end up doing with that. But
that's very cool.
We're trying to bring stuff like that to our industry locally, because it's important that not all brokerages have the ability to train their agents the way that we train them. They all do a great job of their own trainings. But if we can provide some other higher level things to our industry, we're okay doing that, because at the end of the day, we all have to sit on each side of the table together and make a deal come together, because that's how realtors get paid. That's how buyers and sellers end up selling their house or buying their dream house. And so the better we can do at streamlining that process and making it, as smooth as possible and as professional as possible, it helps our whole industry. So, that's what we're kind of about now.
That's a great attitude to have. Real estate is very unique in that it's one of the few industries where daily you do have to sit down across and work with and partner with your competition to make those deals happen, right? In most other industries, you can kind of bury your head and avoid them if you need to, or, like everybody's just kind of in their own little silo doing their thing. And so that's very interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's very unique. And a lot of times we talk about this too, as brokers, I'll get together with some of their local brokers in town. And, one of the things that we come across the most is emotional issues. Like, so, a client will get overly emotional and then a realtor gets overly emotional. Yeah. And that will just, they'll make a deal go something. It could be over something silly. I mean, it could be over something like $500.
You're right.
And it's at the end of the day.
But somebody's button got pushed, and then, it's hard to walk that back sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where, as brokers, we then try to take most of us try to take a civil level of, all right, well, what's the deal? Why can't we come up with $500? Okay, both buyer and seller they're at their max. They're not going to do it. Fine. Okay, well, is this deal worth $250 for you to keep going and kick it in, or we find some other way to try to level it out? But it's just about calming those emotions and just getting it to a level-headed, like, let's make a proper decision here, not based off emotions, but what is the best thing for our clients moving forward, and how can we get from where we are today to the positive result of the buyer getting their dream house, the seller getting what they need to move on to wherever they're going to their next steps, and just kind of putting that together and like kind of playing that scenario out. But a lot of times it is everything to do. It's us just managing those emotions of, all parties involved. So, so I always tell agents, like, hey, get me involved earlier rather than like when the atom bomb is about to go off.
Correct.
And the deal's about to blow up. Get me involved so I can really try to figure out the base level, what the issue is.
Right.
See where we can build from there. And sometimes you can't. It's
right.
Not to let it go, and that's the best move forward. And you know what? The seller, thought they were going to get this out of it. They're not going to get that out of it. They can't make their next move, and it's not the right thing for them. So, like just weighing all those options, really knowing what they're looking for. But a lot of times it's literally, I've seen deals blow up over the stupidest little things. Like, one of them was like a crack deal because there's a crack in the sink or something like that, or like in the like laminate countertop.
Oh,
And they're like, nope, we don't want it.
You guys were kind of far down the road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're through all the thing. It's just it's funny how.
Well, I always say to people, at the end of the day, business is business and people are people, and you can't control people. So if people at the end of the day are just going to make what you feel is a very poor decision, it is unfortunately their decision to make.
And that's what, we're a guide. We're not a decision maker we're not here to make your decisions. We're
right.
Just guide you, give you all the options, and then you make the best decision for you and your family. That's essentially what we do.
Yeah. And then they will regret it later. And then
And then
they'll be talking about you on a podcast one day and they'll be like, oh, I should have listened to my realtor.
Or they blame you.
Right.
Tell them what to do.
Of course.
Right now.
You could have done better somehow, always.
That
So tell me what's kind of next for you guys. You guys have some near-term goals or long-term goals for the brokerage or for your family here in town?
Yeah, so we're the brokerage is looking at growing right now. That's what our main focus is. There's some things in Massachusetts with our insurance company that I'm looking to grow as well. We're looking to expand offices and do a North Shore expansion. But here, we're just looking to grow agent count with good people, and really make a really strong push to be one of the top brokerages here in town. I think we're set at like number 14 or 13 right now in our sales. So, I think there's like 200 registered brokerages here.
Nice.
So we're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Top 20.
Yeah, top 20. And we have 28 realtors. So
okay.
we're in that mid-range as far as brokerages in agent count. So we don't have the numbers like the two. I think the biggest brokerage is like 156 agents in it or whatever.
And obviously they're doing the most sales, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We're not far off for what we're doing for our agent production, which is great. So for agent production, I'm really proud of.
Nice.
We've been doing well. So we're looking at expanding on that, bringing on some agents that, want to have a career in real estate. We're not looking really for the part-time agent right now, but someone that really wants to make a career out of it. We're looking at expanding with those agents and helping them grow and get to whatever stage of life they want to get to. So, that's really our main focus in the short future. Keeping the option open for politics. I haven't, decided which way I want to go with.
You might want to torture yourself again.
I want to torture myself again. I just think that, my level head decision making and the kind of the common sense thinking that I have, I think would suit me well for a political position, and really help move counties forward. And then also that moral guideline of like, I'm not willing to go under. So I don't, in politics, I think one thing that we've seen over the very recent history prior to now is that you kind of negotiate your soul away. And
yeah.
when I've talked to politicians that have been in it for a long time, they just have this almost like just emptiness about them because, they have that goal of this is what I want for this bill. And then all of these other things get put it into that bill.
Yep.
Because everyone else is negotiating upon that bill. So when you really, really read into them, it's like you have like the bill is something really good on its merit. Then all of a sudden it's like, development of some park for, the ultra wealthy or whatever.
Right.
It's just like it ends up being a very big negotiation piece.
Right.
And so when you get a watered down bill, it doesn't become what you want, but on the surface of it is. So, I would never want to be that kind of politician but I would want to do like, no, this bill is on its merit. It needs to stay at this merit. And I wouldn't have much negotiation, at least the soulless part. I would kill a bill before I would, negotiate it and make it really watered down. So, and then, I learned that from actually Robbie Brackett. He was one of the ones that kind of explained how it goes up there. And, at some point it's no matter how good the bill you think it is, if it gets to a point where it's no longer what you want it to be, he's like, you gotta kill it. So, so that was kind of cool advice that he had said that he's gone through. So
that's interesting.
Give him respect for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sir, I am very happy that you spent some time with me.
Thank you.
I want to let you get back to your excited realtor.
My realtor office. Yeah.
Yes. But I hope that you will come and check in with us maybe in another year, and then we can see how everything is going. So,
I appreciate it.
All right. So tell everybody how they can reach you and find you to either work for you or work with you.
Sure. So I'll give you my direct cell phone number, 781-888-4446. And because it's so easy, that's why I've kept it. And it still has a Massachusetts number to it.
We won't judge you for that.
But, our office line, 772-404-4450. And just come in, pop into the office anytime you want. Our website's EXIT Right FL, so EXIT RIGHT FL is in Florida, and that's .com.
Nice. All right. He's easy to find, folks. Just come visit on Main Street anytime. And thank you for all of the hard work that you do in our community.
Thank you for all you do. I mean, you're beautifying downtown, and
I don't know. We're all trying to do what we can do, right? Well, appreciate doing it with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And cheers.
Cheers.
See you guys next time.